Hey ya, this is Sydney with Let's Get Through It Astrology. I'm here to take you through the astrological weather day by day for a bit of play-by-play. My intention is to give you a little bit of a vibe check so that you can show up on planet Earth as your very best self. I'm recording this from beautiful and sunny Oakland, California, so note that all of the times mentioned in this podcast are in Pacific Standard Time, so you'll want to adjust for wherever you are in the world. Okay, let's get through it. Hey, we have another big week ahead of us. Hooray, I think. Not really. I'm talking about the time of February 25th to March 3rd. And we have, again, a lot of big transits going on. Let's go through just a little bit of a snapshot of the week, and then I'll go through the day by day, as I always do. This will be time-stamped, so if you want to get into a particular day, please do. We need to remember that Saturn-Neptune conjunction is still very much in play, running in the background. It's creating reality out of dreams. It's, dissolving old structures. We are having some sort of new beginning in a certain part of our chart, depending on where the Aries point is in your chart. That is where this new, also very confusing beginning is starting. And we won't really know what's going on with that place in our chart, how it's going to be truly impacting us until Saturn starts to get away from Neptune, right? It's going to take a few months. We want that separation to grow beyond the 3 degrees before we really start to understand. So this is an ever-evolving story. But wherever Saturn is actually happening in your chart, this is a time, or a place, rather, to take account of, to take responsibility for. There's going to be lessons here. We need to learn patience and slow building, even though Saturn in Aries does not really want that. So that's in the background. Mercury is stationing retrograde this week. It's going to happen on Thursday in the evening, and it's going to retrograde in Pisces at 22 degrees. So it entered Pisces on the 7th of February. The shadow actually began on the 12th. It's going to go direct around 8 degrees Pisces on March 20th. It'll be out of the shadow by April 10th, and it will leave Pisces on April 16th. So we have a lot of Pisces integration that we are going to need to do for really the next month and a half. It's a really long time for Mercury to be in a sign of its fall and detriment, and I think we just really need to get real slow and intuitive, feeling, sensing. Mercury retrograde times, of course, are a time to slow down and to go within, because it's in this poetic, murky place, this watery, sensing place. Things aren't going to be so clear and direct, right? Communication won't have this point A to B moment. Instead, it's going to go from A to D to X, all the way back to B and back around again. And so we need to remain very flexible, especially when Mercury is in a mutable sign. So some questions that we need to ask ourselves for the Mercury retrograde period is, one, we need to renegotiate our vision of unity for all. Now that we have more information and we're constantly being bombarded with information, how does our vision for the future and for connection really take shape and hold? We have some time to process that. We need to think the words rethink, reprocess, re-intuit, and renegotiate. Another question is, what if we need to sit inside of feeling pain and grief in order to understand how we want to better connect with others and how we ultimately want to experience unity? How do we ultimately want to experience unity with everyone? What if we need to take time to go within and reintegrate an understanding of the ways we seek to escape and check out from this reality? What are the ways we've denied ourselves a deeper knowing? The ways we've denied ourselves access to ultimate truth? What if we need to relearn how to better connect with the greater whole? And what would it take for you to reclaim your voice as it pertains to your dreams and your visions? Now, all of this time in this Mercury retrograde period is going to, I guess, I think it sets this dreamscape so that when Mercury finally goes into Aries, it's now able to initiate and take action on these things that we have reintegrated and re envisioned for ourselves. So, discernment and analysis will become an issue here because we are in this Piscean sign. Mercury does not like being in Pisces. It is considered in detriment in fall. And when we think about planets in detriment in fall, it just doesn't have all of the resources that it would normally need to think, process, communicate, speak. So slow down. There's an ability to get really lost in the sauce here. And if we don't take time to slow down, it could really spank us. Take the time to think with a big, broad, poetic brush, knowing that there's going to be pieces of information that we can distill out of that later on as we go into Mercury and Aries when we take some sort of action on the things that we need to say, do, think, process, and negotiate. Okay. We have Mars in Aquarius square Uranus and Taurus at 27 degrees on February 27th, which is Friday. Now, this aspect is building all week. We need to keep that in mind. So this aspect is in play all week. And this is also where Mars will hit the point of the eclipse in Aquarius that happened on February 17th. We need to consider Mars as a trigger, right? Takes action and makes these things happen. And so this is where we could see the big iterations of how the eclipse is really playing out for people. Mars is in an erratic, unpredictable sign, Aquarius. This could also be violent. We could have power outages. We could have cyber attacks. I would almost expect there to be some outages around anything cyber, anything internet. Anything technological really has the ability to go on the fritz here. We're going to have Mercury conjunct Venus in Pisces at 22 degrees on Friday. And this is a Mercury retrograde. And what I like about this is that it feels like a promise, like the words of promise. And now we go over old territory to make good on that process. These can be sweet words, poetic words, negotiations that need a more intuitive touch, even. We're going to have Mars's ingress into Pisces on March 2nd, which is a Monday. We are, as I'm speaking, on Tuesday, February 24th. We're just a week away from the eclipse, which will be on Tuesday. Wednesday to Friday, the moon will be out of bounds. So we need to remember our emotions could be over the top. There could be overreactions and a lot of big feels happening, right? And, as I'm speaking now, the moon is in Gemini, and this isn't really a feeling sign, but no matter what, the moon is emotional. And so there could be an overanalyzation of our feelings here and needing to externally process in a really big way. We have Jupiter and Pluto are going to be contraparallel, which acts like a opposition. So we need to be on the lookout for obsessive self-righteousness, extremes around judicial and legal matters. We're already watching that. Issues with long-distance travel, issues with flights. This is also on our docket for this week. Saturn is in range to sextile Pluto, which is going to perfect on March 28th. It's going to be the only hit. So this shows up for me, at least what I'm seeing is like deeper systemic shifts in power, authority, business, government. Pluto's demanding some sort of shift. And it's saying you need to change, you need to go deeper, you need to root something out, you need to regenerate here, you need to change. So watch how that's playing out, in your workplace, certainly in the world around us, especially with our governments, all of our governments. We're going to have Mars sesqui square Jupiter. Both Mars and Jupiter will be in water signs on Monday. This is overreaching, impulsivity, rash behaviors, definitely overreaching. You went too far. And now we need to reel it in, but this is hard to do, especially because we are also dealing with communication delays and setbacks with the Mercury retrograde period. There could be an overreaching in behavior trying to, uh, take some sort of action. It feels like this self-righteousness around our religious beliefs and our emotional beliefs and just acting real hyphy. So, Sesky squares are considered a minor aspect, but because it's Mars and Mars is a big player, Mars, when it's doing this, is still going to be within the range, but separating from Uranus. So I think that there's an erraticness, some sparkle, let's call it, to that, spicy. And then we'll have the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo on Tuesday, which I will go into for the Tuesday forecast. I think that is all of my notes for right now. So let's get into the days. On the screen, you'll see February 25th is Wednesday. Wednesday is Mercury's day. Mercury is station retrograde. So everything having to do with communication is now, I think, taking a lot of precedent. It's in the forefront of our minds. I think that, or I think it's probably a little bit more of a good way to put Mercury in Pisces is really feeling into thought, feeling into those spaces instead of having a really direct line into communication. And so as the station retrograde is happening, everything around transportation, communication, negotiations, all of these things are and could be relatively problematic or confusing at this time. I would not be surprised if, technology goes on the fritz a little, all of that. So just be patient. We're going to have the moon making some stressful aspects to Venus, Pluto, and Mercury in the morning. The squares to Venus and Mercury really are telling us that we need to be careful with, how we're behaving inside of relationships and the things that we're saying. And because Mercury is in this space where we're going to have to go back and go over it again, I think this will serve as a period of time where we go, oh, this is coming up. This isn't complete. And this is something we're going to have to negotiate again. We have moon sextile Chiron, the ability to do some sort of healing here. And I think this is healing maybe even around the words that we have told ourselves or we have processed, the things that we have thought about ourselves even. We have a nice working aspect between the moon and Mars. They're in a lovely flowing trine at 3 p.m. And this is going to be in the air sign. So this could push us into taking communication and trying to push forward with it. But because we have Mercury retrograde, it's not necessarily, it feels muddy to me. But it is a good working aspect to try to take action here. We're going to get the moon going into Cancer at 9:11 p.m. The moon is at home in Cancer. It is now in this very intuitive feeling space. It's really, really concerned with security, feeling at home. We will have the moon square Neptune, which can bring in a sense of disillusionment. That's happening late night, 10:47 p.m. And then Mercury is officially stationed retrograde at 10:48 p.m. Right after that, we are going to have the moon square Saturn. So in this stationing period, this retrograde Mercury period, we have this feeling as if we have hit a limit. We are having a reality check. We are feeling disillusioned with our options that are ahead of us. And we know that there's a long road ahead, is how it feels to me. We have February 26th, which is Thursday. Thursday is Jupiter's day. Jupiter's still retrograde in Cancer. It is exalted in Cancer, and it is co-present with the moon today, which is really nice. Hopefully will bring some more pleasant emotions or feeling more willing to explore themes of safety, being at home, feeling at home. The moon is now outside of the squares for today. So what I'm hoping for is that this day could behave a little bit better for us. We don't have a lot of aspects today, but we do have a moon trine sun. That's 11:03 a.m. This feels like a circuit, a flow, a knowing, a sensing here. There's a frustrating aspect of the moon sesqui square Mars at 5:55 p.m. This could feel relatively explosive. We need to remember that Mars is just about at that eclipse point, and so the moon could act as a light trigger when Mars is really the big trigger, and so emotionally irrational is something that we need to be aware of at this time. We do like the moon conjunct Jupiter at 11:10 p.m. Big feelings. I think with all of the Pisces energy in the sky, we're really being asked to feel and to sense and to intuit and to slow down and to go within. And so with that aspect, creating this water trine, the meditative aspect of the water signs in these yin, receptive, internal signs are really inviting us to slow down and to go inside and to really figure out how we're feeling. February 27th is Friday. Friday is Venus's day. And, today is really when that big trigger with Mars and Uranus happens. You have to just mention it right at the top. I mean, yes, Venus is in Pisces. We really love that. She's exalted. She is very feeling and loving and has rose-colored glasses on, and she's the supreme romantic, pleasure and arts and poetry and music and all of that. And you know what? Use music to get through the day. Mars's trigger to the eclipse point brings a violence and a intense erratic action to this day. I am very interested to see what comes up on this day in terms of any announcements around war. I've been really pondering as Mars comes and hits the eclipse point, that's really on the moon of the US chart. So that's the people. And so there definitely could be some action taken either on behalf of the people of America to stand up and to be revolutionary and to, take some action that they need to stand up, and to power to the people, Pluto and Aquarius. But this also could be, because I think of the eclipse having taken out the moon, that this is something that could be happening to the American people, if I just talk about the American chart really quick. So let's keep our wits about us and stay safe out there. It is a very volatile time in the sky. Later in the morning, we have the moon trine Venus and Mercury. This really brings a flow to our sensing and also our thinking. Though it is in water signs, we're really going to tune in with our emotions. We're going to watch that flow of emotions, and hopefully it will help us get to a deeper truth or a deeper sense of unity with everything around us. But because of all of this really erratic energy in the sky, I'm hoping that we are able to get to our own sense of stability, inner emotional stability, or this current of feeling that allows us to take right action. If we're going to take action, it's right action. If we're going to be revolutionary, we need to remember that, many people are involved in the actions that we take. It does feel a bit psychic though, and I do love the psychic energy that can happen with the moon trine Venus and Mercury in Pisces. Sensitivity will play out around 2 p.m., moon square Chiron, moon sesqui square the sun, frustrating energy coming up in the afternoon, really. And then we need to be very emotionally flexible. We could be involved in making some changes, some habit changes and all of that. The moon sextile Uranus gives a bit of sparkle and surprising shifts, right? Stay emotionally flexible. And I think that's really important, anyways, with the Pisces energy in the sky and also with the eclipse that's going to be coming later on in the week. Anxious energy, 9:03 p.m., moon, quincunx Mars. This feels erratic, right? This feels very emotional and also like I'm just going to do this thing out of emotional impulsivity, and yet it doesn't quite feel right, and anxiety abounds. So again, I just want people to be really patient. Mercury conjunct Venus is our last aspect to the day. It's a nice aspect for the day, 9:35 p.m. So Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus feels like retaking a vow, making a promise that perhaps you've made before, but now you really understand what that promise is, and now it's time to go back over old territory as Mercury goes back to work on how to really fulfill that promise. But it does feel like a promise. It feels like sweet words. It feels like poetry. It feels like music. It feels like kind words. It seems like a healing moment to how we're communicating with others and in relationships. We just need to remember that Mercury is going retrograde, Venus is going to go forward. There's going to be another meeting. So whatever promises are taken on now, it's going to take some time to really get it going. That's my sense of it all. February 28th is Saturday. Saturday is Saturn's day. And I always say Saturn days are great for taking care of the chores, taking care of business, the foundations of your home, right? Doing the sweeping, doing the mopping, going grocery shopping, meal planning. Everything that helps you take care of business for your own life is what Saturn days, I think, should be for. We are going to have the moon ingress into Leo. So that's going to happen in the middle of the night, 12:16 a.m. But now we're in a creative, dramatic sign. A moon in Leo needs to be playful. It wants loyalty. It's big-hearted. It can be very loving. And because the moon in Leo is being ruled by that sun in Pisces, I think that this brings an intuition and a super creative moment as we flow through this day. And I think that's a great thing for us to do when we have Mercury retrograde in Pisces, is to lean into that inner creativity that is inside of us all and use it as a well of inspiration and hope. We get nice flowing aspects with the moon trine Neptune and Saturn in the morning, middle of the morning, but this is, passionate. It can be playful and also I'm going to get this done. I know a creative technique I'm going to use to do this thing, right? Nice working aspects, but all night. So powerful emotions coming up. Emotional confrontation is very possible at 8:03 a.m. We have the moon opposite Pluto. This is, to me, it feels like needing to be recognized, and yet we still need to take into account that we are a part of a whole. A moon in Leo in all of either my client work or the people that I've known with the moon in Leo is that they need that validation from other people. And when the validation doesn't come, there tends to be some drama that happens here. And so this opposition feels like a confrontation with that need for validation that could be happening from all of us. So be interested in finding creative ways of dealing with that need for validation, because you can't always get it. It's not always possible, right? And we need to dig that up from ourselves so that we can still feel whole and be a part of community. Frustrating aspects between Mercury and the moon and Venus. relationships and communication could be taking a little bit of a hit. There's an anxiety in the sky as well with the moon quincunx the sun. I feel like you're you'll have the ability to get things done early in the morning if you wake up that morning in the morning, but know that there's a more erratic energy, frustrating energy, anxious energy that is going to infuse itself into the day. And it's very possible that you're not going to feel satisfied and complete with how everything went, because the closing aspect of the day is this quincunx between the moon and the sun. It feels very unfinished. It feels, like you're trying to analyze all the ways that it could have gone better, and then there's just no button on the day. So just know that, right? Just try to remain flexible this whole week, really, honestly. Sunday, March 1st. Sunday is the sun's day. We have the sun very close to the north node. I probably should have mentioned that it was with the north node a couple days ago, but we have all of this Pisces energy in the sky, and it's just so intuitive and dreamy and feeling. And yet, I really feel as if the sun in Pisces wants us to connect with the unity of it all, with understanding that we're a part of a greater cosm. We are a part of the cosmos. We are a part of this earth. And it wants us to just feel into that space, right? Let our energy kind of open up so that we can feel united. And we need that more than ever, right? Especially with that North Node in Pisces, it wants us to really collectively go into a greater sense of belonging and feeling. But on this day in particular, we don't have a ton of aspects, and the aspects are relatively cranky. My biggest advice is to not try to buck up against the things that come up in the day. The aspects of the moon sesame square Saturn and Neptune, and then quincunx Mercury and quincunx Venus says patience. And we could be asked to drop something about this habit of, again, needing recognition, this moon in Leo having these stressful aspects. It's like, no, you can't always get what you want. And you need to find other ways to get that from within. You can't rely on other people to tell you what you want to hear or to uh, give you what you want in this moment. You might have to drop something, might have to eliminate something, and you might have to adjust something, adjust how you're communicating in order to find yourself in better standing in your relationships. There is a lovely aspect from the moon to Chiron, and that's in the evening, 6:08 p.m., and take that period of time to engage in maybe creative endeavors that will allow you to heal. Feels like coloring in like a mandala book, or doing an art project, or even expressing like divine rage in a healthy, safe container in order to kind of push out that passionate energy and use it in good ways. That's how I would take it. But good luck, everybody. March 2nd is Monday. Monday is the moon's day. The moon is in Virgo very, very early in the morning at 4:33 a.m. And just prior to that, we will have some stressful aspects from the moon to Uranus and the moon opposite Mars. This feels like upset and shock and acting a bit erratically and emotionally, trying to hold on to control of something, argumentative. And as the moon goes into Virgo, we now go into this place of almost repetitiveness, service. The moon in Leo maybe went too far and trying to get what it needed, what it wanted. And now it's like, it's corrective, right? The moon in Virgo is corrective. It it needs to get its hands dirty. It needs to fix things. It needs to analyze things. It needs to go, okay, so that's what that was. And now I need to tie up these loose ends. Needs to be of service. This is a moon that's dealing with healing and health. And also now that the moon is in Virgo, we're now in the sign that the moon will be in for the full moon. We're now in this gibbous full moon aspect. It's growing and I think the anxiety in this moment as it goes into this full space, especially on this day with the moon entering Virgo, and we won't have the eclipse until tomorrow. It feels like anxiety in the sky. And the moon's aspects are also essentially doubling down on that as well. So try not to lean into the anxiety. Instead, do the things that you can do to either create a sense of comfort or healing or safety for yourself and for others. Understand that this moment is transient and we will move through, we will push through. Don't be afraid to get your hands a bit dirty in the muck of what you're dealing with and go, okay, actually, this needs to be taken out. This needs to be changed. The aspects or the moon on this day, the day before the eclipse, says emotional adjustments are necessary to prepare myself for this awareness point that's happening on Tuesday. March 3rd is Tuesday. And on Tuesday, we have a full moon eclipse in Virgo. I'm going to pull up the chart. Here we go. That's going to happen at 3:37 a.m. Pacific Standard Time at the 12 degrees Virgo. We need to keep in mind if you have any points, especially in the mutable signs, right? So we have Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces at that 12 degrees, would say anything between 12 and 10 and 15. This eclipse might have something for you. If you have mutable angles, the eclipses are happening inside of the mutable angles for you. And so this is perhaps an awareness point where you're like, I'm aware of this situation or something that needs to change, that I need to drop, that I need to get rid of. The full moon eclipse is with the South Node, which is a release, and full moons are also about release. So this is release upon release upon release upon release. What old stories do you need to give up or tell yourself a different story about? What are the ways that you've picked on yourself too much that you need to get rid of? What are the ways that you can drop these old habits and stories in order to be more accepting of yourself? The mutableness of this full moon is asking for adaptability. Is asking for adaptability. It needs us to be able to be flexible and to shift with it, right? There is no perfect point. As much as a Virgo placement would want there to be perfectness, there is only perfectness in imperfection. Perfectly imperfect, right? The moon is in a new phase to the South Node. So there's something growing here. Maybe we are growing in this ability to release old habits and stories. The moon is in a crescent sextile to Jupiter, so new ideas around ways to organize. This is a great time to clean out the clutter, clean out the closet, clean out the basement, just clean it out, clean out the mind, clean out the body. This full moon eclipse is ruled by a Mercury, which is not in great condition at all. It is in a detriment in fall. It is also combust. It really is asking us to go inside, and feel what needs to be released is what's coming up for me in my mind right now. The nice thing about the Mercury, which is ruling this eclipse, right, is that it is very close to Venus. So it's co-present with a benefic, good planet that is in its exaltation. It is also in a sign-based trine to Jupiter, another planet that's inside of its exaltation. So I'm hoping that this will be mitigating and also a healing time. This is an awareness of something that needs to be healed within us and habits that need to be dropped in order for us to go forward. Full moons are about feeling, right? And awareness, internal awareness. And so whatever's coming up for us emotionally at this time, this feels like purgative. Just let it go. If you need to cry, there's so much Pisces energy in the sky. This is really a great time to be letting that go. Let's see if there's anything else I have in my notes for this. Yeah, a pile up of Pisces energy, release, surrender, unification, inspiration, imagination, dreams, fantasy. Confusion, right? Again, we need to be flexible. There's some sort of realization that a behavior needs to stop in order for us to engage in healing, engage in purification. We need to release something that we thought was maybe necessary. Release outdated and old modes of needing perfection. There are still going to be issues with analysis. Maybe we're being pushed into intuition instead of facts. And sometimes I think intuition is such a beautiful thing, especially if we get quiet and we go within, right? And we learn how to trust what needs to be let go of here. This lunation also has, besides the giant pileup of Pisces energy, which is really fascinating, we do have Mars is anaretic at the 0 degrees. It is just ingressed into Pisces, and this is like the spiritual warrior. This is the, fighting for what you spiritually believe in, taking action in ways to make you feel more whole. This Mars in Pisces, it feels like a holy war, our own holy wars. And certainly there is one kind of happening right now in the world. But for any lunation, this is a really great time for us to also think about the places where Cancer and Leo, Moon and the Sun are ruling over your chart, because this is ultimately where the impact is going to settle into, right? So it's like, yeah, the eclipse happens here in this axis, but ultimately it's going to take action here. It's going to impact here. It's going to settle in here. So it's something to keep in mind. I'm trying to think if there's any other notes for this lunation. Yes, Venus in a sextile to Uranus. This change in Venusian things, money, love, relationship. But I think it's a welcome shift, right? It's a sextile, so it has the nature of Venus. The change is welcome. Fresh energy, right? Before all of these planets, Venus and Mercury and the Sun and Mars are all going to go into Aries. We're going to have a giant pileup in Aries happening in about, I think, a month and a half or so. There's something about the ending of things and the ocean of things that we are grappling with, working through, so that we can take initiation in a few months. If you're feeling real emotional, just let it happen. Let it flow. Let it go. Release. I want to say that, like, for the whole week, I really feel like it's asking us to be as flexible as we can, because things are ever evolving and changing, and we are going to bear witness to some actions being taken in certain parts of the planet that is going to further call us to wake up to what is really, really happening. We are having an unveiling, certainly with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, of these almost hidden systems that have been in play that we have to grapple with what that really is and get it out. There is a corrosion that we are now being aware of, and with these probably more explosive and violent shifts that are happening, we're like, actually, we don't want to do this anymore, and we need to go forward in a new way. So take care of yourself this week. Take care of others. Try to do some meditation, use that Pisces energy to its best ability. Yeah. And if you're curious about where all of this is happening in your chart, I have readings available, and take care of yourselves.
Hey, thank you for listening to today's Astro Weather with me. I'm Sydney. As a reminder, I'm always open to seeing both new and my beloved returning clients. My website is ddastrology.com, that is D as in dog, astrology.com, to check me out and just click the email buttons in order to schedule with me. If you're into a more conversational feel with your podcast and content, I have a podcast called BS Astrology with my fellow Mercurial Mommy Bender, and we put out episodes every Sunday for the week. Just search BS Astrology on YouTube or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcast, including Spotify, Audible, and more. Have a good day.